There's a certain kind of man who walks into a room, and everything just shifts. The energy, the mood, even the way women glance up from their phones. Subtle, but undeniable. He doesn't need to speak loudly, flash money, or chase attention. Yet he's the one women remember, the one they think about later, sometimes without knowing why. The man who's always one step ahead, not because he's playing games, but because he understands the game at a level most never will. Now, I know what you might be thinking. Is that just charisma? Looks? Maybe he's just lucky. But no. What makes this man irresistible to women isn't luck. It's habits. And not the surface-level, feel-good kind you hear in pop psychology videos. I'm talking about deep inner habits, rooted in evolutionary psychology, behavioral dynamics, and timeless masculine archetypes. The kind of habits you develop through discipline, through awareness, and by becoming a man who naturally attracts, not chases. This video is going to walk you through 7 of those habits. But I'm not going to feed you the same recycled be confident nonsense you've heard 100 times. I'm going to break down, with surgical precision, the psychology behind what actually makes women feel drawn in, the subtle signals, the energy you radiate, the invisible power you hold when you stop trying to impress and start leading with presence. Because here's the truth most men never want to hear. Attraction is not something you force. It's something you command. When you stop outsourcing your value to women and start embodying a version of masculinity that is rare, refined, and real. Now, before we get into the first habit, I want you to lock into this one idea. Women aren't attracted to the best guy in the room. They're drawn to the man who makes them feel something. That feeling, that's your leverage, and if you learn to create it, sustain it, and amplify it, you don't compete for attention, you become the attention. So let me ask you, are you ready to become the man women can't resist? Let's begin. Imagine you're out somewhere, not trying to meet anyone. You're just focused on your own world. You're grounded, calm, but alert. You're not checking your phone. You're not scanning the room for approval. You're simply present. And that, right there, is where it all starts. This is what Robert Greene, author of The Art of Seduction, calls the rake's attention. It's the art of being completely attuned to the moment, and when the time is right, directing that same energy toward a woman with unshakable intensity. Not neediness, not desperation, just raw, centered awareness. The kind that makes a woman feel like she's the only one in your world, even if she knows you've got options. That level of presence isn't built in the moment. It's practiced, daily, and that's where the first habit comes in. But before I explain that, let's go deeper into something you won't hear on mainstream channels. Women are biologically wired to detect incongruence. They don't do this consciously, but they feel it. If your words say, "I'm confident," but your body, your energy, your vibe screams, "I'm unsure," they pick it up instantly. That's why true alpha masculinity doesn't start with external behavior. It begins in your nervous system, in how you regulate your state under pressure, in how you respond, not react. Now here's something most guys completely miss. Women are far more emotionally intuitive than we give them credit for. In fact, research shows that women are biologically programmed to read micro-expressions, tone changes, and subtle shifts in body language far more accurately than men. That means you can't fake this. You either are the man or you're performing. And performance always breaks down under pressure. So the first habit, and I'm going to break it down fully, is something I call emotional anchoring. It's the practice of locking into a grounded, dominant emotional state that you carry with you no matter what happens. When a woman sees that you don't flinch under pressure, that your emotions don't sway based on hers, something activates in her brain. It's primal, it's protective, it's ancient. And suddenly, you become more than just another guy. You become a potential leader. Erich von Markovik, better known as Mystery, was one of the first seduction experts to explain this dynamic in social settings. He noticed that the man who could remain unaffected by social tension, whether being challenged, ignored, or flirted with, became the center of gravity in any group. Why? Because he wasn't chasing validation. He was anchoring the energy of the room. This doesn't mean being cold or robotic. It means being so centered in yourself that you can invite others into your frame, instead of constantly reacting to theirs. That's the difference between a man who attracts and a man who chases. And look, I get it. You might be thinking, all right, that sounds good in theory, but how do I actually practice that? Here's the answer. Every time you're in a high-stakes situation, maybe you're approaching a woman, or you're walking into a room where you feel judged, instead of focusing on what to say, shift your attention to your breath. Inhale slowly, feel the ground under your feet, and remind yourself, I don't need anything from anyone here. That switch, from outcome dependence to internal control, changes everything. Because when your energy is clean, your intentions are pure, and your self-worth doesn't wobble based on external reactions, that's when you become magnetic. And it doesn't stop there. Let's talk about another psychological element that silently determines whether a woman feels drawn to you or just politely smiles and moves on. It's what David Deida, author of The Way of the Superior Man, calls the masculine edge. This is the inner polarity between calmness and danger, stability and unpredictability, safety and intensity. Women don't want a man who's only safe. That's the friend zone, the therapist, the nice guy. They want a man who is stable and wild, who can provide peace, but also thrill, who can be grounded but also electric. That polarity creates desire, and that desire keeps her coming back. So, how do you build that edge without becoming a jerk or trying too hard to be alpha? It starts with a very specific habit, and I'll break that down next. That edge, the masculine polarity we just touched on, isn't about being loud or aggressive. In fact, most men confuse dominance with noise. But true dominance is silent. It's felt, not shown. That's what makes it irresistible. And that's why the next habit separates the few who draw in women effortlessly from the many who always end up in the friend zone. The second habit is what I call controlled mystery. Listen carefully. Not knowing everything about you is one of the most powerful emotional triggers you can give a woman. Why? Because women are wired to seek emotional stimulation through curiosity. If you're fully decoded in the first conversation, she might enjoy your company, but her imagination doesn't get involved. And attraction without imagination, it fades fast. The male brain craves resolution. The female brain craves exploration. This is where most men fail. They overshare, overexplain, overcompensate. But the man who knows how to reveal just enough at the right time while keeping layers of himself unrevealed becomes a mystery she wants to solve. This doesn't mean playing games. It means you have a life so rich, goals so deep, a vision so locked in that you're too focused to overshare. You don't use your story for validation. You let her earn the next chapter. That's real seduction, when you're not even trying to impress her, yet she's pulled deeper into your energy. Think about James Bond. Think about Gatsby. Think about any character in fiction or real life that women fantasize about. They all share this same quality. You feel like you know them, but not fully. And that space of not knowing keeps the emotional tension alive. The key here? Practice saying less. Not to be distant, but to be precise. Speak with intention. Let silence work for you. Women feel more in the pause than in the paragraph. Now, let's move into something that might challenge you, but it's non-negotiable if you want to embody real alpha masculinity. The third habit is radical self-priority. Most men have been brainwashed into believing that putting themselves first is selfish, that it makes them less desirable. But here's the paradox. The more you orbit around a woman's needs, the more invisible you become. Not because women are cruel, but because their attraction centers around leadership, not submission. And leadership begins by leading yourself. David Deida says, if a man's life is not aligned with his deepest purpose, his woman will feel his lack of integrity. That hits deep. Because most guys don't even know their purpose, and if they do, they abandon it the second they start dating someone they like. They stop training, they stop building, they compromise their mission for comfort, and guess what? She senses it. She might not say it out loud, but inside, her respect slowly erodes. And with that respect goes the attraction. A man who prioritizes himself, his growth, his body, his craft, his ambition, sends a powerful signal. I choose you, but I don't need you. I am whole, with or without you. That's the essence of masculine polarity. That's what makes her want to be part of your world, instead of making you the center of hers. And let's be real, women want to feel chosen, not needed. Needing her to feel okay? That's pressure. Choosing her from abundance? That's power. So start setting boundaries, not to be cold, but to be clear. Don't cancel your gym session just because she's free. Don't drop your plans to be available 24/7. The more you value your time, the more she will too. Let's move into something deeper now, something primal. The fourth habit is embodied sexual energy. This isn't about being overtly sexual. It's about owning your sexual presence. Because here's the truth. Women are masters at sensing sexual repression. If you're uncomfortable with your own desire, she feels that. And she immediately categorizes you as safe, but not exciting. You become cute, but not compelling. But when you own your desire, not in a creepy or aggressive way, but with grounded masculinity, you radiate something few men do: magnetic tension. It's in how you look at her, how you speak to her, how you take up space. Your touch, your tone, your stillness, all of it communicates, I'm comfortable with who I am, and I'm not ashamed of wanting you. Tantric practitioners have known this for centuries. Sexual energy isn't about release, it's about containment. The man who can feel arousal without rushing to relieve it becomes captivating. He holds energy, he builds tension, and that tension, when controlled, becomes addictive to the feminine. There's a reason why women fantasize more about energy than about acts. They want to feel desired, not objectified. Desired with intention. That's what embodied sexual energy does. It makes her feel alive in your presence. It awakens her own femininity. Not through words, but through your state. This is a habit you train, through breathwork, through presence, through eye contact that doesn't flinch, through cultivating a body that feels like home to your own desire. Because when you're at home in your own skin, she wants to be in it too. Now, let's move into something most seduction gurus ignore, but it might just be your biggest unlock. The fifth habit is strategic detachment. You've probably heard women say, I liked him more when he stopped chasing me. Or maybe you've been ghosted by someone who seemed really into you, right after you started showing more interest. Why does that happen? Because human psychology responds more to tension than to comfort. The moment something becomes too available, we unconsciously devalue it. It's not fair. It's not even logical, but it's real. And if you don't understand this mechanism, you'll keep making the same mistake, giving too much too soon. Strategic detachment is not manipulation. It's maintaining mystery by knowing when to lean back. It's not disappearing, it's pacing the emotional rhythm. Women want to earn your depth. If you flood them with constant availability, compliments, and attention, they don't feel your presence, they feel your need. And nothing kills attraction faster than emotional overexposure. This is where you flip the dynamic. You stop texting first every time. You let her initiate sometimes. You focus on your life so deeply that when she sees you, it feels like a privilege, like she's stepping into a world that's already moving, not one waiting for her permission. The absence of your presence creates space for desire, and in that space, attraction grows. Now by this point, you're probably starting to see the pattern. These habits, they're not about tricks or pickup lines. They're about energy, calibration, inner control. And when a man starts embodying even a few of these traits, the entire way women relate to him begins to shift. Not because he's trying to be someone else, but because he's shedding the behaviors that repelled attraction in the first place. And that leads us right into the sixth habit, one of the rarest and most transformative of all, the habit of calm leadership. Now notice I didn't just say leadership, I said calm leadership, because a lot of guys confuse taking charge with being forceful, loud, or overly directive. That's not leadership, that's insecurity with a mask. True leadership, the kind that women instinctively respond to, is steady. It's felt, it's subtle but firm. Women aren't just looking for someone to follow, they're looking for a man whose direction is clear. Not because he told them what to do, but because his life already reflects where he's going. And this is where most guys shoot themselves in the foot. They don't make decisions. They wait. They overthink. They hesitate. And that hesitation, that's a signal. A subtle one, but powerful. It says, I don't trust myself. And if you don't trust yourself, how can she? Leading with calm certainty doesn't mean controlling the woman. It means creating a space where she can relax, because she knows you've got it. You've got the plan, you've got your emotions under control, and you're not shaken by external chaos. You don't ask, what do you want to do? 10 times. You say, We're going to check out this spot. You'll love it. That tone? It's not arrogance, it's clarity. And clarity is attractive. When you speak, your words are deliberate. When you touch, your intent is known. You don't rush. You don't seek permission to be masculine. You simply are. One of the best examples of this is what Navy SEALs call slow is smooth and smooth is fast. High-pressure, high-value men don't rush. They operate with measured intent. That energy, that precision, is pure gold when it comes to seduction. Because again, women aren't just reacting to what you say. They're reacting to how you move, how you decide, how you carry uncertainty, and the man who can walk into the unknown without folding under pressure. That man becomes a beacon of stability in a world full of chaos. And don't be mistaken. Women crave that anchor. Not because they're weak, but because feminine energy flows. It moves, it feels, it shifts. And when it meets a grounded masculine presence, it feels safe to expand. Which brings us to the seventh and final habit. And I saved this one for last for a reason. The habit of non-neediness in validation. Now I'm going to be brutally honest here, because this is where 90% of men secretly fail. Even the ones who look confident on the outside. You can go to the gym, stack cash, learn lines, dress sharp. But if you're still secretly chasing approval from women to feel like you're enough, they will smell that on you like blood in the water. Non-neediness is not the absence of desire. It's the absence of dependence on a particular outcome. You want her? Great. You find her beautiful? Say it. But if her reaction determines your worth, if her pulling back makes you question your identity, then you're not leading. You're seeking. And seeking behavior in the world of attraction is always a repellent. This is why the most powerful man in the room isn't the loudest. It's the one who's unbothered. Not passive. Not indifferent. Just deeply aligned with the truth that his value is not up for negotiation. And you'll know you've reached this place when rejection doesn't sting. Not because you don't care, but because you know it doesn't define you. When a woman walks away and your mind doesn't spiral, because your sense of self isn't built on her attention. This habit, more than any other, requires deep inner work. It's not learned through seduction tactics. It's built through self-awareness, discipline, and years of unlearning the programming that told you your worth was tied to female validation. When you remove that invisible hunger, that grasping, even subtle, something radical happens. You become free. And in that freedom, women feel something that words can't describe. They feel a man who's not trying to be chosen, because he already chose himself. A man who doesn't bend his masculinity to gain approval, but who refines it to serve his own path. This is the man who draws women in, not with tricks, but with truth. Not with masks, but with mastery. And it's mastery over self that breeds effortless attraction. So now you've seen it. Not tips, not tricks, but habits. Deeply integrated ways of being that don't just change how women see you, they change how you see yourself. Because here's the truth no one tells you. When you stop chasing women and start mastering yourself, they don't disappear, they multiply. They feel it. In how you walk into a room. In how you speak with calm intention. In how you look them in the eye without hesitation. Not as a man who's desperate for attention, but as a man who knows who he is. That energy? It's rare. And that rarity is what makes you unforgettable. Now, I'm not here to sell you fantasies. I'm here to remind you that the power you've been chasing through women already exists within you. It's just buried under years of noise, distraction, programming. And once you strip that away and start showing up as the man you were always meant to be, unapologetic, grounded, present, women can't resist you. Not because you tricked them, but because you triggered something ancient in them, something they don't even fully understand. That's not game, that's power. And power, real power, is never loud. It's silent, still, controlled. It walks into a room and changes the atmosphere without saying a word. That can be you. Now, here's what I want you to do, and this part matters. If even one thing in this video hit you deep, I want you to drop it in the comments. Tell me which habit resonated the most with you. Tell me where you're at in your journey, or tell me the one thing you're going to change this week to start showing up as that man. Because the comment section on this channel, this isn't just noise, it's a brotherhood. And I want to build a space where men like you can level up together. Iron sharpens iron. Also, if you're tired of the weak content out there that sugarcoats masculinity or waters down attraction, do me one solid. Like this video, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe with the bell on so you don't miss what's coming next. This isn't the last video. This is just the beginning of the shift. Because once you start walking the path of the man women can't resist, you'll realize the most powerful thing you ever seduce is your own potential. Let's keep building.